Hello and welcome to LGPRo's Expert Insights. Today we are talking about engaging with external stakeholders, and I'm joined by David Hawkins, who is the designer of an online simulation engagement platform and author of Valuing Relationships, a Common Sense Approach to Improving Business Outcomes. Welcome, David.
Hi, Julia. How you going?
Really good. Great to have you with us. Why is engagement so important to local governments to do well? And what are the ramifications if not done effectively?
Big question. So let's start with the fact that, apart from the fact that it's now going to be in the Local Government Act, so we'll park that for the moment. But when you look at a local government, local governments are using the money of their ratepayers as well as government. So that, they really need to be tapped into the views and the desires and the needs and the wants of their local community. The other thing that I think is really important to note is that most local governments aren't going to be able to achieve the goals that they set in their strategic plans unless they're engaging with external stakeholders. So if they're going to have to do it to achieve their goals, they might as well do it well. And one of the things that we're seeing globally now is a decline in trust in governments at all levels. And there's real reasons for that. So stakeholder engagement is such a critically important component of building trust with the local communities.
Absolutely. And you've spoken to me about some of the consequences of that diminished trust on the global stage. And it's clearly relevant now more than ever. I understand in your experience, you've helped organisations navigate engaging with their stakeholders through some really high-profile incidents, such as the Black Saturday bushfires and the Marriage Equality Postal Survey. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about your background in this space.
Just before I go to that, just coming back to your other question, you sort of talked about what are the consequences if they don't do it. And I think that local government know too well the community outrage that occurs when they don't listen to their community. So I think most local governments know that. Coming back to my experience, I think one of the highlights of my career, which now sort of spans, I think, close to 32 years, and during that time, I've worked with about 60 of the 79 councils in Victoria, as well as ones in other states as well. But one of the highlights was a particular campaign, and we talk about toxic waste. And nobody wants a toxic waste dump in their backyard. And yet with good engagement, we managed to put a hazardous waste facility within 30 kilometres of Melbourne CBD in a local government area. It took 3 years. It was a very slow process, but there was genuine engagement with the local community. And when one of the councillors in an election stood up and said, we don't want Mount Toxic in our backyard, before we had a chance to say anything, it was the local community who jumped on the council and said, no, you're wrong. We want this development to go ahead because it's going to provide so many community benefits for us. So they understood the risk profile of what was being planned, and they understood the benefits as well. But that came as a result of genuine community engagement. It was so exciting, and it's really sort of been a key driver for me to see during my career what you can really achieve through good community engagement. And I think one of the things that's really important to note is local governments are never going to be able to please all the people all the time. That's just a given. But that doesn't mean that we can't, that the people who aren't getting what they want can't leave a process feeling satisfied that they've at least had an opportunity to have their position heard. And that's absolutely critical. So a little bit of a mixed bag there in terms of answering your question. I hope I've answered it.
Certainly. And I mean, you touched on not only an example of buy-in, but actually advocacy in that particular high-profile case. That's really quite incredible. And I know that in the workshop that you're delivering for our LGPRo members, you have some fantastic content in store. So that's part of our Future Local Government workshop series and titled Effectively Engaging with External Stakeholders. What will our members gain from this session?
Okay, so I think there's two key takeouts I want members to gain. First is PPE, and that doesn't stand for personal protective equipment. What that stands for me, it's the personal principles of engagement. But if, and because sometimes we can't control what an organisation does or how an organisation is going to engage, but what we can do is we can control the way we do it. So we can set ourselves some principles for our own personal engagement, and that's really, really important. So the second thing is looking at a structure of a good engagement plan. There are a number of things in the Auditor General's report also highlights what should be included in a good engagement plan. So we've looked at that, and they'll walk away with a solid structure that enables them to think of some absolutely critical questions, or answer some critical questions they're going to need when they go out and engage. So those two things, the principles of engagement and a structure of a good engagement plan.
Fantastic. A lot in store. And I know that you've planned a really interactive session as well. So thanks so much for your time today. And I'm really looking forward to exploring this further with our members.
Me too. Thanks so much for having me. See you later.